the following: me, Taro, and go with Worm. Okay, so party one, go low team.
Embrace simplicity.
Okay, we'll
Purify
go
our
the
existence.
invulnerability one, the party two. Just so I don't wanna die, just in case. But it should be alright, like don't plan to hit people with damage skills. Okay, so start. Now if we wanna press record Taro,
Uh-huh. Done.
thanks. So yeah, just on the basics of like commanding at all. Like command on whatever you feel comfortable with. Like I like to play Chrono because I feel it's an utility class, and when you hold the utilities, you can just use them whenever you want. So I think it's easier to use the skills by myself rather than ask. So I like it because I feel I can control the fight better, especially on like the points that we'll discuss. However, play whatever you like, uh, whatever you feel comfortable, especially if you don't have to think about the class. Like you don't have to think on like I want to go there, and then you somehow get stunned, and you don't know the stun break kill this guy like skill right away, or like you want to do something here and then you should think about what skills to use. This is usually really bad, and it holds up during fights. And during fights is when you need to be like calling out a lot of stuff. So I usually like to go with whatever you have some muscle memory, and you can just do stuff and don't have to think about it. Um, so yeah, we'll just take a quick look on the mind map, just because I would like to go over three main pillars today regarding fights. I think like the mental aspect of the game on the people playing, the mechanical one, like the game skills type, how they work, and also the tactical one, like what you do when you engage. So the mental one just will go very quickly. It's just to like something that you cannot not care about. Like it's something that happens and you need to like just figure it out as you go. So there is two type of the mental aspects of the game on how people are able to perform. Uh, you have the mental of your own group, the people that are fighting with you, and the mental of the adversary one. So on your own group, you have a lot of stuff that plays overall, like the guild culture, how people are resilient or not to frustration. So sometimes you lose a fight, maybe lose another one, and people are feeling like not motivated enough, yeah, kind of wanting to ditch the fight. So those kind of things they play a role. People play worse when they don't want to be in a fight. They feel that they're just losing. So sometimes it's a snowball that you cannot get out. So we just sometimes need to give it up and like it is what it is. Move on, find something else to do. Um, I would like to just mention something very specifically that happens a lot in our guild. Is that sometimes we have a lot of comments post fight, and those comments they can be helpful, but sometimes they can feel and sound like demotivating. The best example that I can provide is the amount of people in the enemy group. Like with people that run know the enemy, they will often call out after the fight, like, "Oh, they were 40 if we lose," or like they were 35, and those kind of things. It's usually very helpful to get an idea, get a feel of what is going on. But sometimes, especially if like it's a first fight and we lose the fight badly in a way that we're not prepared, you try to do something like be aggressive, and the other group was much better than you thought it would be, and you kind of lose a fight in a very bad manner. Sometimes these comments will sound like demotivating, like, "Oh man, they are 40," or something like it provides people with kind of like frustration and makes people feel less motivated to keep fighting. This usually happens. What I recommend is that if you are confident in a fight, like if you saw something that you did, like, hey, I was too aggressive, maybe I should like hold up a little bit against this group, bait a little more. You know what you do after. I strongly recommend you to just dismiss confidently. Like just, I usually do something like If they say, oh, they were 40, I would say, oh, nice. With the other group that we have, it's about an even fight. I can say like, nice. That's a good number to for us to fight with the help of the siege or stuff like that. Like you just dismiss the comment in a confident way, and it usually doesn't affect morale that much. But another thing that you can do as well to kind of avoid those kind of situations like pitfalls, as you can give more energy on the callouts. This is tougher to do, especially if you are tired, like you or maybe like didn't sleep well and it's like did a lot of stuff during the day and you get your command like tired. It's sometimes harder to put energy, but if you can maybe just like straight up in the chair, like give a little stretch before the fight, try to put a little bit more energy on the callouts, and this usually also helps a little bit with the morale. I find that using both at the same time is the best way to kind of dismiss these comments when I want to keep fighting and I think we can have a good chance. And people are kind of just saying this stuff that's like kind of demotivating the group. So this is how I usually handle and how I recommend you do. Any comments on this part right now? All good. How good it
No, all
is.
good.
Yeah.
Nice. On the other aspect of the mental game is also the mental of the adversary group. And sometimes it's only an issue when we are winning all of the fights. Like when we are just rolling through people, like winning fights in a way that it's not that easy for the other group to do something else. It's something that you need to concern about if you like the fights and you think it's a good content for your group, like you're enjoying and you see that people are enjoying. So it's a good idea to pay attention to how the other group is feeling about those fights. So what I usually recommend is that whenever we are just on a winning streak and it's like wins that are way too like despair, like you give no chance to the other group, or even it's like close fights, but you are not losing anyone, no one is dying, and the other groups are maybe getting a few like pulled, but they cannot even get a down, or maybe not finish downs. I usually recommend to just take more risks in the follow-up fights. Uh, what this means is usually like if you are fighting under siege, you're defending a keep, and they are pushing. Take an open field fight with them. If you are fighting in a spot that is controlled by you. Like for instance, you have a keep and you are under the area of the keep that is painted on your color in the map. You have booms, actually buffs, not booms, but buffs that everyone in the group has because it's under a controlled area. Try to get a fight out of this control area. So you progressively take more risks as a way to keep the other group engaged and give them a little bit of chance as well. This is usually just a courtesy between commanders. It's usually how people who are enjoying the fights and they want to keep going and not just caring about their own group, they usually do this kind of stuff. And it's also good to like take more risk on pushing people. So you make sure you do more aggressive pushes, you do quicker movements, you do stuff that you usually are more like careful about. There's open gaps in your group. This will provide more chance to the other group to get someone killed, to like maybe pull, get them out of there, kill a party, maybe more. Sometimes even you lose the fight by being very aggressive, but those type of approaches they provide you with the ability to find what is the limit within our own group, like what you can do and what you cannot do, because people will not be able to follow. But also you make an opportunity for people to understand how they made a mistake. Like if they were maybe too far away from you to dodge, maybe they were like predicting what we were going to do and you did something else. So this gives people the ability to also analyze their own games and how they approach and how they are like making mistakes and getting killed. Like I'm usually go very aggressive on the fights that I like because I think it's good content and we can like foster up and sometimes even lose ones because it was too aggressive. And it's all right. Like it's good to also think about the other group if you are enjoying the content and you want to keep doing it. And this is a quick pass through on the mental one because it's very important in fights. Like you cannot fight with your own group not following instructions. And if the other group doesn't want to fight, you don't have a fight as well. So it's just something that you keep in mind. But moving on to the more technical aspects of the game, like how to engage fights and this type of stuff, we have essentially two main pillars that I think how I see the game is the mechanical one and the tactical one. The mechanical one's like how stuff works in game, like skills, boons, conditions, like how boons can be stripped, how boons can be corrupted, the difference between one and another, and also for the conditions. So for boons specifically, I like to see that when you strip a boon, you just reduce the enemy output, like ability even to like cleanse your damage to the normal, to the baseline. And when you corrupt the boons, you push them below the baseline, so you make them weaker. It's like obvious when you think about it, but it's important to consider these mechanical aspects when you look at fights. And I think we can just like pass through this quickly, unless like, we have any other like stuff that we can go back here. My cat was just throwing up. Let's look what was going on.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah, it happens. But on the tactical aspect of the game, what I like to think about and how I like to see the game is I would like to see the game as a game of ground control. So how much you are able to control a specific part of the ground by using the mechanics of the game that we just talk about, like boons, conditions, and other stuff. So for instance, back in game, just to show this up, like we have this condition, I think. No, it's damage. It's a damage field here. And all the skills of the game, they are field. They may show or may not show, but they usually run in a radius. So this damage one, and you can see that when you step in this ground, you take damage. So what I usually like to think about when engaging fights is that when you push in other groups, you are creating a place that is dangerous for them, and they will do the same for you. So you need to think about if you can sustain the ground that you are at. So for instance, if I'm alone here, I can sustain for some time, I can drop a heal skill, but after some time it's gonna be tougher to stay here. If you have more people, it becomes easier. When you have a comp party, you have like people taking care of specific parts, and it's even easier. So uh, when you drop a skill, for instance, like a no field, I just drop that because there's no damage. Within this area that we are here right now, you have people being put back on the baseline of the damage throughput. You can think about like because you are corrupting boons, so you are removing them from being above the baseline to being below on the baseline because they are just stripping boons and make sure they have no boons, so they will be kind of the normal way. If you do like a corruption one with wells from Necros, for instance, so like think about it's a well. Right now you are corrupting boons, so whoever is inside this area that you are dropping stuff, uh, it's not only being put back on the baseline, but it's being put below the baseline. And this is for one skill, like I'm using for no field. But when you combo with the whole party, you have no fields, you have wells, you have gravity wells, you have other stuff going on. Usually we cover some ground that people not drop everything like stacked together. For instance, like this one, extremely stacked together. You sometimes will have things more spread, like this one. And you have some skills hitting some part, other skills hitting other parts. And what I think it's important to know is that whenever you make a call out, like a call out for bone strips, just no fields for a specific place, you need to pay attention that the other group will be on the baseline, on being able to cleanse, being able to damage, being able to bone strip you. And whenever you go for stronger skills like wells and CCs combined, you'll make a ground that is very hard to be on. Like they will struggle to be on this ground. And this is important for the way that I play the game, for instance, the way I see these fights, because whenever you push on someone on a group, for instance, let's say that this damage field is a well that my group just dropped whenever we push. So I know there's a well going on there. So you can play around the area. Like if they try to push you on your tail, you can keep moving. So the tail can get back together here, and they will not cross right now because there is a dangerous ground right here. And you can think the more you drop stuff inside there, the more uh, the kind of more, I forgot the word, but more intensive the the damage the ground is to the other group. So I like to think about this way because when you start to move, you start to get people together. Like you push, for instance, you have a tail, and you can manage your tail around the fields that you drop. So you can call for a well, you know that you can maneuver outside the wells to make sure your tail catches up to you, and the other group not be able to directly hit your tail unless they take the risk of taking out the well's corruption and maybe like getting a few people down. So this is how I usually like to interpret the game and how to approach fights, like the basics. Um, does it make sense for you? Like, do you see in a different way on how to like control those fights?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Nice. So yeah, um, so we'll go over now the specific moments in the fight. Like you usually have whenever you are starting the fight, you have the engage moment. That stuff may happen, depends on how you engage. You have a moment that you may want to disengage, like if you clash with the other group, you can maybe try to disengage later. You have the clash moment that you go for heat, you step on them, maybe get some kills. And then you have also the commit moment, whenever you like full commit and something like you step on them, stay on them. There's different moments in the fight. The engage part is one of the reasons that I like Chrono so much better to command because you have a lot of utility that you can drop on those kind of situations like pulse on range, have veil, you have even the continuous split that you can use, you have stealth on other sources, you have on other skills like blocks that can make going up and hitting the other group like easier if you just block through damage. It's another thing that I like. So you have some options. Other classes will have their own, like it's about what you prefer to play. But on engage, I usually like to pay attention to a couple of things. So just drop a mark on Griff. Can you stack on Griff, the other group, just to showcase a couple of stuff? Hey Taro, can you follow me around?
Yep.
Uh, hey Noxty, are you there? Can you move to the invulnerable? Okay, yeah, no problem. So yeah, Taro, just follow me for a little bit.
Okay.
Like I'll move and you follow up. It's like pushing up, engage, showing back on the side, crossing to the other side. Okay, so one thing that is obvious is that people are reacting to you, so they will do stuff later. And sometimes people lose your tag and they will react to someone else reacting, so you kind of get a snowball effect on people going like being on a trail, so you have your tail exposed. Nice, thanks. Join the invulnerability group, Noxty, to be with us here. Thanks. So yeah, you have a tail that you need to handle, and this is important to know the reaction time because whenever you are pushing up and trying to bait some skills, if the other group starts to push into you, so start to move here, Griff. If you wanna show back by the time Griff starts to pushing on us, by now you are kind of dead already because by the time you make the callouts, the other group will be able to take a couple of your tail. So let's just put on walk. We can do this on a walk, so we do it fine. So I'm just pushing on you, Grip, and you push back on us. Okay, right now, push up. So if Grip starts to push, by the time you call out like show back, the other group is already on you. So this is an important thing to understand, and it's something that it needs to be more proactive than reactive, as crazy as it may sound. Like if you wanna to move back when the other group is going to push on you, you need to prepare the call out for that before the other group starts to push. So what I usually like to do, and what you'll see me doing a lot, is that I'll be saying like, pushing up, be ready to show back in three, two, one, show back. So I prepare people to understand that they will need to move back soon. So by the time I see any reaction on the other group, I just call out for the show back and people will be ready. So what I recommend is just to not do this very close, like for instance, show back in 3, 2, 1 now. Like it's way too fast. So try to call a little bit before if you already set on your mind that you want to bait. So instead of doing a quick, you just say, okay, we'll be ready to show back. We'll show back in 3, 2, 1, and then you can adjust the time of the call of the countdown for whatever time you need. Like for instance, be ready to show back. Show back in 3, 2, 1, show back, show back. It's much easier for people to move because you did kind of a timer way beforehand than just way too quick. So for instance, be ready to show back. Show back in 3, 2, 1, show back now. You see, you kind of, even if you had to make it faster, it's better on the reaction time than what people will normally do if you start to call out later, or if you wait for the other group to react first to then show back. So whenever the other group starts to push and they are not at 1200 range, for instance, about here, if they start to push on 1200 range, you have time to move back just fine. Like the last of your tail will be able to move back. If you are not that far, like 900 range, we'll probably lose one or two on your tail. It's usually how I think about it. Probably at least one will die. And if it's 600 range, you'll probably lose a full party or like 3 to 5 people if you call out for showback instant. And if it's close to melee, like 300, it's basically just over the fight. You lose multiple parties, you lose important people like Firebrand stuff. So whenever you are planning to move back, try to think about it first, even when clashing. Like for instance, we'll do a simulated walk. So we stay put, the other group for now, we'll just kind of show. So we're pushing up and say, hey, be ready for well bomb on the other side. And then you go for well bomb. And just drop in new fields because it does no damage. Okay, hold up here, fight on the wells, be ready to show back. Push on Mikriff, show back in 3, 2, 1, show back. You see, you do the call out that you wanted to do something before they actually start to do something to you, like before they push on you. This is how I have realized that you lose less people and you are able to get out of those situations. If they push and you did not prepare, you were not set beforehand to show back, sometimes it's better to just dodge sideways or forward, depending on how they push, and then moving backwards. Because moving backwards is tougher for people to do than just moving to the sides. So it's something that I usually do that helps a lot, is just to set your mind on doing something. And I like to show back a lot because showing back is one of the easiest ways to avoid the fields that said, like the ground control that the other group is going to drop. So whenever you show back, people may drop some important skills that you can take a look on what they were. Like it's kind of uh, purplish, like this purple, more like light purple is chrono, like no fields. The wells from the necros, they are. Do we have an echo? Oh, we have quarks. Can you drop a well, quarks, please? Okay, you can see that it has kind of an inside that is darker. It's a different type of field. And for them and the other group, they'll see purple around the one. So whenever you see a purple, you know that's someone from your squad or like a bug that drop a well. But when they drop, they have a distinctive way on the inside of the well that you can see like a pattern. and you can realize there was a well. So I like to bait before because of those things. But I have never been able to bait successfully before setting my mind on baiting beforehand. That's why I say like show back, be ready, show back in 3, 2, 1, show back, because it makes people have the like be set on showing back and helps baiting up a lot. Yeah, any comments on this?
Just the range for the baiting, like you're definitely staying out of Reaper Greatsword range, right? Like you're not getting within 900 if you can avoid it.
I usually go for 600
Up to
because it's the
600.
yeah the range of the pools. It's a great way to actually force them and bait a few more skills from the other groups to get about 600. Uh, kind of a little bit more than 600, maybe closer to 800, 900, just for the threat of the pools. You see, whenever you get close enough, I'll just drop the value to simulate, but you kind of force people to at least use a small stab. So you bait some small stab from the other group. Uh, you bait some range skills that they will drop as well. So whenever we push into range, you'll probably have a couple of the great swords from the Necros going. And if you have some stab, it's a great moment for them to use those skills because it's usually something that we can just deal with stab. Like it's tougher to deal with these great sword pulls whenever you already use some skills. Like you clash, maybe you got something stay close melee, and by the time your firebrands are running out of skills, they use those skills. They usually get a lot of people pulled inside the group. But on range, on the first engage, it's usually only helpful for them to remove some of our stab. Uh, Sometimes lose one people or another one, but it's something that I trust on them, like complaining to the firebrand or stuff like that, and just organizing and make sure it never doesn't happen again. I also sometimes point this out, like whenever I get on range, I just drop a debate so that the group knows that something's coming, and then someone on our group is pulled. I'll just say, "Hey, range support. Make sure people have stab." Like I give just those small nudges so the firebrand on the party and the other like support players can think if they did something like wrong, maybe didn't provide stab, or if it's just a matter of the specific player maybe stepping on field or something and lost stab. But I usually go for this range. It's close enough for the pulse to be a threat to the other group. Yeah, this is on the engage. So engages are tough. They are tough because like Taro and Noxy, if you can follow me again, they are tough because if you want to push in a group, like you go for a push on the left side, for instance, you have a tail around here. If you try to move to the other side, you have a tail to handle. And the other group is, in theory, they are just stacked together and they are not spreading away and they are not like moving. So people are kind of in the same place. So it's usually easy for them to drop like Firebrand, skill 5 on staff, like a couple lines. So people with no stab will get stuck on our side. They can drop some pulls as well from the Chronos that we mentioned. They can get the pulls from the Great Sword. So they have a lot of options on range, like the Scepter skills on the Scorch Power build. Like they can strip people, they can corrupt pulls, like Corrupt Step, and make people like run away from fear. Like whenever you push, you get exposed to this kind of pressure from range because you don't move as a ball, like everyone together moving all the way at the same pace. It's not how it happens. So what you need to do to be able to break this initial uh, challenge, like baiting up, is the one that I like the most. That's why I mentioned that. Like you can bait, and when you bait, you go for like vertical push to vertical again. You don't move an angle, like you don't go to the sides. So usually when you go forward and you move back, you kind of regroup with your tail. Like if your tail is way too behind, you kind of become a ball together again because you pass on the same path that people are going to pass. So it's a way to also manage your tail on the engage. And that's why I don't like to engage a lot moving sideways because it exposes a lot of tail. And if they go for a push on the middle of tail, like you don't have much to do. You need to trust that people will be able to dodge. And even if they dodge, you can get a side hit, and you may need to dodge back once. And by this time, you probably lose some people to the attack because of how they went for the engage. So let's simulate this. Griff, we can go on a normal speed. I'll do a couple engages. Feel free to, the other group, feel free to use some non-lethal skills, like just corruption. Just don't do like heavy damage to down people, just to make sure we get something going on. So okay, pushing up, moving forward, be ready to engage on them. Pulls ahead, show back in 3, 2, 1, back. Out of there, nice, good. Moving up, be ready on this left side, we'll push on the side, keep moving. Okay, holding up, nice. On the other side, be ready to push on us, Griff, if you see the opening. Okay, be ready to show back in 3, 2, 1, back now. Let's keep moving on the side, moving on the side, holding up here. Small fields go, pulls on feet. Nice. Quick pulls, get on the right side. Nice. Holding up. Let's step back again. Disengage for a little bit. So you see, it's a much easier way to manage your tail if you just move forward and back than sideways. That's why I prefer to avoid, like if the group's at the center, I prefer to avoid moving to the side like this on the engage piece. The engage is important because everyone has all the skills. So they can just throw a lot of stuff at you, a well bomb very quickly. They didn't waste a lot of cooldowns yet. That's why I think baiting is more efficient. And what I like to do to quickly recoup some of the field that we gave up when I bait is to follow up with Veil. So if you go for engage moving forward, you show back in 3, 2, 1, you show back. By the time the other group's kind of pushing on you, you can drop a veil and quickly close the gap, and they don't have a lot of reaction time for that. So let's simulate a bait with. I will push up to the marker and then show back, and you will just chase us for a little bit. Okay, so be ready, pushing up in 3, 2, 1, show back in 3, 2, 1, show back. Dropping veil, take a veil, and turn on them, the machine. Okay, so you see, you kind of make use of the situation that the other group is going to have a tail as well. And it's something that I like to do because it bypass all of the engagement kind of dance of moving sideways, doing a quick step away, those kind of stuff. It's a quick engage, go directly for melee. That is what the comps are usually better right now. So make sure you get some good hits, and usually works really well for me. That's how I like to play. But only works because I have the utility as the chrono. It's tough to do this when you need to call out for Veil. But you can use Veil in other ways. Like even if you are moving sideways, if you give like enough time for people to regroup, and then you ask for a Veil, you can drop a Veil close and move, and you'll be able to get some ground cover. But whenever you do this, it's important to know that it's usually more kind of more open. Like the other commander will be able to see through some of those moves, unless you do it like very very fast. So yeah, this is usually how I prefer to deal with engages. It's tougher, and it's usually when you either get a good position to get a good opening in the fight, or you already lose a lot of people and the fights become like way harder because you lost some important people. So it's important to figure out how you like to play with the class that you have, see how you prefer to engage, and like can work. When you are big and you have a good comp, for instance, like maybe 20, 25 and you have a good comp, and the other group's kind of in the same place, you can even go for a like slow engage forward, just Like I like to go press the W, move forward a little bit, and then do a little sideways. So I wait for the group and then move again, just to keep the movement slow. And usually provides a good way to close range with not a lot of tail, so you can sustain through the damage. So for instance, let's use this field as an example. Like we're getting in range and people start to drop stuff, usually move forward, and by the time you move, you stepping sideways, people will be with you. Like you have people close enough to provide support, provide clearances that you can out sustain some of the range damage that people do and close the gap quick. It's another approach that usually works for me as well. So on the clash side is when you go for a hit and you kind of want to clash with them for a little bit, do some damage and step back. Usually how this new meta is playing out, like you don't have a lot of ability to sustain and stay on top of the other group for a lot. So you kind of need to go for a small hit, take some, and disengage. So on this situation, I like to do a couple of things. Like when we are pushing and creating a ground field, like on the other group of skills that make them have to stay there. So for instance, we mentioned this, like no fields, wells, corruption. So we are dominating a space and they'll probably need to move out of this space because they will also have not have the sustain to just sit on the skills and the damage that we'll be doing. So you are conquering this kind of space here around the other group. For instance, the no field, they are conquering this space, but they will react as well. So more often than not, they'll drop skills on you as you are pushing them. So when you are pushing, they'll drop skills, and you get a couple of corruptions, like bleeding conditions make you slow, get some people like stuck. So what I like to do is to play around the field that you are fighting for. So if you conquer where they are, instead of staying put, because they will try to counterattack this place as we are. Like we try to play around the field. So this is what I usually like to do. So for instance, doing a hit, we'll push in 3, 2, 1, pushing up. Wells go. For instance, I will just sidestep around the wells. So if they want to stay there, they can. If they want to fight out tail, they will still take damage. And I keep moving around just to move. So another field going on this side. So I'll play around this field, like moving up on the sides just to showcase. And then again, the back in 3, 2, 1, the back. Try to play moving alongside the field. You see? So they need to either get outside or if they want to attack us, they will need to face the risk of losing some people because they were not able to move through the fields. So this is what I like to do. We'll do a direct hit just to showcase what happens. So we'll push on you, Griff, on your group, and we'll stay put around here and you can just drop fields back on us. So pushing up in 3, 2, 1. Wells go there, fight for the ground, and they'll drop stuff on us. As soon as they drop stuff on us, you'll see that it's hard to keep fighting. Like, it's hard. We'll be taking damage and doing damage. So it's probably going to be kind of a stalemate if both groups they are kind of the same level of players' ability and size. Kind of be a small stalemate because you have some people succeed, some people being corrupted, maybe one down on one side, another down on the other one, but no one will be able to fully uh, do the same thing. So right now we'll do the same thing, but instead of being in the same place, we'll move either to the right or to the left. And same thing for the other group, just drop the skills on us as we move, try to predict where we will be and how we would place skills in a normal fight. So be ready, moving up in 3, 2, 1, moving up. Who else going there? Left side, move with me. Moving the left. Alright, so we got pulled. I didn't have any step.
Sorry.
It's alright. But it's just okay, is like if they start to drop fields, the fields will go from where we were to where they think we are going, and by the time they cast the skill on us, they will probably be past the movement, so the field will be behind us, and we can avoid taking some damage by playing around the other field. For instance, this is what I think is useful. Is it alright? Like, makes sense? Any questions? Was it maybe just too much ramble?
No, I think it's good. My problem, I always get nervous about positioning, and I appreciate what you said about making a decision and doing it, because I think if you hesitate and get like wishy-washy, you just don't win at all.
Yeah, it's usually the worst thing that you can do. Uh, Besides not calling out anything. When you don't call out anything, it's the worst thing that you can do. But the second worst is just trying to maybe be too reactive, make decisions on the fly, and people need to react to what you're going to do. So, yeah, if they push and you didn't prepare beforehand, you'll lose some people. It's how it goes. But yeah, this is on the clash side. So I like to, when I clash, I like to play around the fields that I drop, just to make sure that if they wanna hit our tail, like we were moving through the side, for instance, think that this is the field that I dropped. I just dropped a no field there, and the group is in the middle. I'm moving on this right side, and if they wanna hit our tail, they need to stay on the field. If they wanna go around, it's enough time for people to dodge and get back to tag. So this is how I usually avoid losing people whenever I push, because they need to play around the field. It's not that easy to just stay in the middle nor do something else. So besides the clash, we have the commit moment. The commit moment is usually when you feel like you're being able to sustain the damage that they are doing. You feel like you can take your group sustaining well. You already killed some people, and you think you have the upper hand to go for a bigger hit. So you just go straight up, like for instance, push ahead, dodge forward, push into them, something like these are the callouts that I usually make. And it's when you go for push and you go to stay on the ground, like you drop fields and you stay on the ground, like you try to stay on top of them. And by the time they move, you try to keep following them up and make sure that they don't have any ability to breathe. Uh, it's uh, it's how I usually go for the commit. So you fully commit on staying on the other group and trust in your sustain, your cleanse players, your heals to make sure you get to the other side. Like this is something that if you do on a bigger group, on like in the beginning of the fight on engage, if it's not a hit that you did and they were unprepared, like for instance you use stealth, either you got a good veil, they didn't see you, you came from behind, and they didn't, or they were not expecting. If you commit like this on a normal engage, it's probably just death for you because people drop breaches, they'll drop veils on feet, they'll drop bubble, and you get so much ground control going over around you, they'll just die with everyone. So it's usually something that you need to do after baiting up a little bit, getting some clashes, playing around the other group, like getting some pulls CCs, and then you can commit to go for a full hit. Uh, but yeah, let's do a full hit on the other group. We'll go for non-lethal fields again and try to move around Criff like if you were dodging away in a real fight. So pushing up in 3, 2, 1, fields go, clash on them, like stay on top, follow them, follow them. Don't let them breathe. Stay on top of them. Like this is usually the call out. I usually try to focus the head of the other group. Like if I'm paying attention to the commander, I try to follow the commander or the people that are close to the commander often. So when to use this kind of commit, like you have mainly the one that I mentioned, like after you pin out the other group, like you grab a couple of them, like you killed some on the engage, you dodge some skills, you make sure they use a lot of the skills. So you can do after that and fully commit to end the fight. But it's also something that you should pay attention to when fighting outnumber, especially when the other group is smaller. Like when you are smaller, it's another issue. But when we are the bigger group and we're fighting smaller groups, especially groups that are good, like you get boys, you get crew, they are usually run smaller and they play really well, so it's hard to catch them. And it's hard to catch them, it's hard to generate downs because they go for a hit, like we did. So for instance, we go for a hit here on Criff, dodge away Criff. They go for a hit, they get strong CCs, they pull people, they kill these people, And then by the time we disengage, they already killed some of us. Maybe they have some very good banner coordination, like they drop a banner on the warriors and confirm some kills. And by the time you try to counterattack, they already moved. So just to put an example again, we'll do the same thing, Griff. Try to dodge away, like maybe one dodge back, one dodge sideways, and counterattack us. So it's very quick. So dodge away and move back to us. Try to attack us. So moving forward, fields go, pulls on this left side, like getting one. Okay, grab this one, they are pushing, dodge away, move away. So by the time we are pushing like this, they are already disengaging. They are running away and they confirm somehow some some kills on this one. This is usually how these groups play. And why it's hard to kill them is because they stack booms, like they play their booms really well, they stack booms, go for a hit, sustain damage from an outnumbered group, do a lot of damage, burst damage, like drop people dead, confirm kills and move away, and resustain. Like they don't have on numbers the ability, for instance, if you do Chinese GVG with those two groups, the bigger group will always win because they have bigger, more people, more booms, more skills to play, more corruptions, more strips. So now the bigger group is always going to win. But when they hit, do some damage, disengage, then hold up, hold a little bit, push, do some damage, disengage, and you allow them to play like this, you are just going to lose one, two, three people every time they do this. By the time you have like the same amount of people and they just fully kill you. So what works for me on this type of groups is to go for them, like do a kind of bait, the engagement dance, do something, and whenever you clash and you think they have used enough skills, you commit on them and you do what I said of just stay on top of them. Wherever they move, you move with them. Like you are going to lose people on the tail, you are going to lose people that are staying behind, but your objective, like your goal with moving with them, staying on top of them, like chasing the commander, make sure they are always with people from your group around them, is that by after some time you just with the amount of people they have, you make sure that they don't have uh, sustain anymore and they will start to crumble. And even if they down like three parties on your group, like you lost 15 people that are uh, down or downstate, have 15 people in downstate, you have the full group of them in downstate as well, so you can just like kill a couple of people and get the rally war and get people back up. So usually it's a good tactic to use against smaller groups when they have already used some of stuff because you can make sure to overload them and they don't have sustain enough to deal with this many people. Yeah, this is on the commit one. And another one that is important to say is similar to the engagement one. Whenever we clash, for instance, we did a small clash and play around the field, like just moving sideways, make sure they stay inside the field while we are moving outside. We're doing small clashes, not fully commit, not on top of them, but just doing small things. If you need to disengage, you need to think about kind of the same way as the showback one. So you need to commit that you wanted to disengage. Like you need to have this clear on your mind and you need to start the call out even before the other group pushes on you. So it's something that you can expect them to push, and they'll probably push because that's how fights go. You attack and then you get counterattacked. So you kind of foresee that they are gonna push on you, and you start the call out beforehand. So for instance, what I will do is again try to follow Criff there. We'll push up in 3, 2, 1, pushing up. Yeah, I'm using CCs just to make sure and play around this side. We are doing some damage here. Show back in 3, 2, 1. Show back. You can see Criff wasn't even sure if he wanna push or not. Like it's just an example, of course. But I was set that I was gonna show back and disengage. So if you wanna disengage, especially if you are this close on melee to the other group, if you react to them pushing on you, your group is dead. Like you'll probably lose one party, two parties on your group, and you lose the fight eventually. So when you push, you need to be aware that they will try to counter bomb on you. And it's going to depend on how you play the field. Like for instance, if I drop a new field and the group is on the marker and they move to the other side, you can expect that as soon as the stuff go, they may try to go for a direct push. They can go around as the fields are dominating, so you need to kind of step away. They have a lot of ways to counter bomb. The more fight-oriented groups, or the groups that like play harder, whenever you do the same thing, so just to stay back, you do the same thing. The group is there, you drop the fields. They may try to disengage back, and by this time they stealth either through veil or something else and do a dodge to you. So if you try to react to them stealthing to call out for move back, you will lose people. So what I do is I play safe. So whenever I go for a push, like for instance, let's go for a push in 3, 2, 1, I'm pushing up. Okay, starting with some fields. You step on this left side, show back in 3, 2, 1, disengage. So I'm doing my thing. Like if we generated some like a lot of downs and I wanted to confirm those downs, I will do kind of a back. So like we went for a field, for instance, same example. We got a couple downs and we show back by the callout. So I just step back and stay very close to the downs to where my people like can drop range skills and confirm the downs while we fight the other group like from range. Um, yeah, good moment, good question on the when to go for downs. So what I like to do when you do this kind of situation that you grab some downs and the group has a strong bomb, like you see that they can do a good hit and they're pushing on you, I try to avoid show back as we did, like call out and circle around and try to concentrate skills on the downs as we move just on range, not fully commit, because having downs and not confirming is not necessarily bad. This is something that you can think about because there will be people trying to rest those downs, like they may be like hand resting. The group, if they push on you, like we generated downs at the market, the group push on us, the downs are still there, so they will need to pass through there at some point to get people back up. If especially if you move on the sides, like if the downs are still there, you move on the sides, you're putting pressure. They'll need to pay attention to the downs at some point. So it becomes a really good bait for you to do a follow-up bomb inside the area where the downs are, and then get a few more downs. But it's usually a good call out to pay attention is like if you generated downs and the other group is moving either like sideways, try to mirror the movement to make sure you like the downs are on the marker and you have like yeah, think Griff. You have the other group moving up. I think the other marker is here. Yeah, the other moving around there, for instance. You try to mirror the movement just to make sure that you keep the downs between you and the other group. It's a good approach. If they directly push on you, like for instance, they push on you, yeah, like that, it's a good option to just leave, like leave the downs. Leave the downs, disengage, go around, and try to put pressure on range. They have less people. They have less people pressing skills, so it's good for you to just do some range pressure. The downs will be the square one, so I can move the other one. Okay. And if they do nothing, you can step close enough to just confirm a range, like kill. But it's a matter of, do you think you'll be under pressure, like in the next 1, 2, 3 seconds or not? This is essentially what it boils down to. If you think you get a lot of pressure within the next couple seconds, maybe a good idea to call a show back because it takes 1, 2 seconds for people to react. And then you can play around the downs like we did, like either move to the side, move to the other one, step close. You can play around these downs. If you don't foresee like the other group pushing you, maybe you went for a hit and they dodge back like twice and they wait way far ahead. I would say just sit on the downs and confirm the downs. Like it's a matter of do you foresee pressure or not. If you foresee pressure, it's usually better for you just to leave the downs than actually fight for them because you have downs on your group as well. If you like keep fighting. Uh, but good question. Okay, so yeah, this is essentially a lot of the stuff that I like to engage in how I see how to play. I think the last thing that we probably can go through is just on the type of skills and callouts that you do. So if you go for a boom strip, for instance, just you say like just small skills like necromarcas, boom strips, don't use wells, for instance, a callout on this, and you drop stuff. You'll probably not be able to sustain here a lot if they just decide to bomb you back. They'll do damage on the baseline because they don't have a lot of booms, but it's something I need to pay attention. Like it's a fast-paced engagement. This is what I was looking for on the words. Like if you go for a bone strip for small skills, like just pulls, small things, be ready for a fast-paced engagement. So you need to move fast with your group. So what does this mean for you? This means that if you go for this type of callouts, you need to be thinking about your next move right away. Like for instance, if you're pushing, as I said, like be ready to show back, just small things on range, show back in 3, 2, 1, show back. Regardless of how the other group's moving, it's something that you need to do by yourself because it's a fast-paced engagement. When you go for wells that have CCs, that have boom corruptions, then it's different because they cannot do as much damage as they would do because you're pushing them below the baseline with the corruptions, with the CCs. So I never go for a big hit like wells. You can go and move around like I did for instance pushing up in 3, 2, 1, pushing up and just doing a clashy. You can just like sidestep, let them sunbreak, like step back, and can just keep putting some pressure because they will be under a lot of pressure. But you need to realize that at some point your group's going to start to run lower cooldowns. So usually I count like 5 seconds, just playing around. I don't actually count the seconds. I usually look around the skills. So by the time, for instance, my pulls are getting back, it's something that I realize it's usually after I use on the engage and I am alright. So around the time that it's getting back, I'll try to call for some pulls on feet. And then after this pulls on feet, I call for showback, regardless of how the other group's moving, because it's probably the time that we are running low cooldowns and the other group's going to push on us because they were able to move around the first hit. And then we call for showback, disengage for a little bit, get some cooldowns back, like just to do some things on range. So it's important to pay attention of what type of ground control you are going for. If you are going for a light ground control, the other group can push on you very fast. They can move away because there's not a lot of CCs going. They will be able to maneuver faster because they're not being stuck on the same place. And it's different when you go for big skills like wells and strong CCs because they will be stuck on place and sometimes they'll need to deal with people going down. They'll need to deal with people staying behind because they got like immobilized or they lost stab and they got CC. So they need to pay attention to a lot more things. And this gives you time to do other stuff. So what I like to do is when deciding what to call, either a light one or a big hit, is that I like to pay attention on how I was able to go on the engage one. If the other group's not expecting me and just stuck on the same place, I call for Wells big hit because I want them to stay at the same place. So I usually go for a big hit, stay on top of them, fully commit, get a lot of downs, and then shut back. I'll step back if like you need, or you can just finish the fight. If they know that you are going there, so you don't have an element of surprise, you are pushing there, they are aware of you. I may try to bait a little bit and see how they react, just like show back, and then running around, like seeing how they move. If they start to drop like a lot of markers, like it's happening, it's a good example. You know that there's a couple fields that you probably go through and get corrupted. So this one I think this is the bleed one, but there's one that causes fear, like corrupt stabs. So you get fear. So you know there's some kind of pressure there, and whichever pressure that they put on the bait one is less pressure that they have when you decide to fully push. So if they drop markers when you fully push, they don't have markers anymore. So wait, my mouse is no longer working.
Uh-oh.
Okay, okay, it's working now. I don't know what happened. So by how they react, it's a good way to understand what you wanted to do. So if they follow your bait, like for instance, you push up and you call for a bait, show back in 3, 2, 1, and they follow you, like followers, you can decide to, oh, it's a good moment, given that they're split, and they just call out for wells close to you, like Darvey or something. And then you can get a couple of them. They will have a lot of pressure hit your content, but good because they are already inside the damage that you were doing. So it's a good moment to call for big skills because you usually get a lot of downs. I don't like to call wells whenever you are not either making use of a good bait, like this example that we did, like you make them follow you, so you know they are kind of split, they have a tail, they don't have a lot of people, so you drop wells close to you and hit them. And you can even like move through wells if they fully move to that side, and move to wells and get them around here. For instance, this way you swap places, but you still have fields going on in the middle, so you can still do some damage. Uh, so if you are not making use of them pushing on you or pushing on them, so you went for a hit and you are committed on the hit, so say like we go for well, and then you go for well bomb for instance and drop wells on them, and then you try to fight for the place. I don't try to use wells. So for instance, if we are moving sideways, like the toilet bowl, that's toilet bowl Griff. You go to this side and go to this one. Like this is a good example. Like I just toilet bowl, like just putting some pressure. I don't think this is a good moment to call for wells because you're not fighting for a ground. Like you're just swapping places from one side to another. Another example of this one is just let's stay on this side, Quiff will stay on the other side. Let's dodge through Quiff. So moving forward, let's move, dodge through, just shoot them, swap places. Okay, great places, nice. Be ready to move back. Small things, they push, so dodge through again. And then kind of this kind of swaps. I don't think it's a good moment to use wells unless you are fighting for the ground. So if you pushed first and you're not directly swapping or trying to fight for this ground, maybe a good call out. But if they are swapping places a lot with you, you probably just waste the wells. So when you have this kind of situation, I like to do to fight for the ground that will be in a couple seconds. So for instance, let's swap place again. Swap place, dodge through, and then I call for wells in the back where they are. And then we start to move there because now they're going to eat the wells and we are fighting for this ground right here. Even if it's a late fight, even if it's like not straight up fighting, we're just setting up to fight in like 1 or 2 seconds. I think it's a good usage. Um, yeah, and whenever you see, can you drop a well box? Do you have it on cooldown?
I do have a well. I can drop it.
Nice, thanks. So yeah, whenever you see this mural marker here, and they use some of the wells, you know that if they want to fight for a ground like you are trying to fight, they will not have the same force as you because they lost a couple of the wells. So I like to pay attention to these markers. Whenever you see some, you can like go for a fight. You can call for wells is a good place because they will not have. So they'll have light skills only. So by the time you hit, you have hard skills hitting, and they'll have not a lot of hard skills hitting on you. So usually a good place to use wells as well. For the light ones, I like to call on the engages, like just call for small things, like if I want to grab a couple pull, I'll drop a no field and pull, they move back, like just to put some pressure, make sure they use some stuff, just small things. And whenever we clash, for instance, like I went for a well bomb, and we clashed, and went to the other side, and we just saw place, and right now I try to call for pulls on feet and CCs in the back, for instance. And then we try to use like pulls on feet and make sure they are under some light pressure, some CCs, so we can like for instance pulls a couple here and keep fighting them on feet. Like a good example of moments that I like to call for smaller things. Yeah, and smaller things are very good to bait people. So on the engage, as I mentioned, or even if you want to show back, you just want to make sure they have some pressure, you can use those smaller things. Helps a lot. Um, yeah, and if you don't have anything, like you don't have low kills, for instance, like no fuels, they're kind of just repons, and you wanna do some damage, you wanna push them, uh, you need to cover the ground pressure that you would be doing with a dodge. I think is usually how it works the best for me. So you don't have wells, you don't have small skills to use, and usually this happens when you're already clashed, so you are close to the group. So you are kind of fighting sideways, for instance, just close enough but not fully on melee, just like group stepping side to side, stuff like this. And then you wanna go for a hit on melee. I usually call for a dodge through. So dodge through and get to them, dodge through, and dodge forward and get them. So you cover the ground with dodge, which makes the movement kind of a little bit faster to get to the other side. Usually hard for the other group to react, and you are able to do some damage even if you don't have a lot of skills to fight for ground, because the other group is also going to be a little bit slow cooldowns. It usually works for me. Another thing that really works well is when you are able to combine with Veil. So if you have a Veil playing as Chrono, you have someone that's playing Chrono. When you are fighting, kind of, you went for heat, and then you step sideways like this, and you open some space, like this space. It's a good example. Like this distance is very good. You can drop a Veil on feet, like, and just move through, and then by the time they realize that you are hitting them, it's already too late. Like you are able to get a lot of them with this. It's usually how it works. Good groups will be able to track the commander and see that it's stealthed. But if your group move with you, like you provide some call out beforehand, like we're pushing on them in 3, 2, 1, and then you drop value, and people move with you, then we are able to hit them really well. So yeah, I think these are the main things. The only thing that I would say to sum it up is, like, when fighting another group, you don't want it to be the one reacting to the other group. So if you're fighting, you don't want to wait for the group to push on you, for you to call out showback, because by the time you react to the other commander, you call showback. You have to wait for people in your group to react to you and then showback. And there will be people that will do faster, people that will do slower. So by the time you do all of this, you lose a lot of people. So you don't want to be the commander reacting to the other group. So you want to get a feel of how the fights go, and sometimes it goes like it's engage or range, just small things, and you try to show back, make sure your people keep moving and keep moving with you, and then you go for this place, just small things on range, and then you decide to commit, call like, commit, push up, and then you push. And by this time, you know that they will try to counter bomb on you. Like you were the first to get the initiative, so they will drop a bomb on you soon. So this is everything that you need to know. Like you'll be under damage soon. So by this time you need to realize what you're gonna do. So if you wanna dodge to one side, dodge to another, maybe dodge through or show back. Like you need to have this in mind. I usually default to show back because I like to bait more skills. So I'll be calling like be ready to show back in 3, 2, 1, show back. And then I decided what to do before the other commander decided how they were going to approach the fight. So yeah, good question on the baits. Uh, it depends on how the other group reacts to bait. Like for instance, when we fight groups that are also very mobile, they usually fight groups. They will be moving a lot, so these baits they usually work nice because they'll try to push on you, but they'll not use a lot of skills, so it's harder to pay attention because they have more experience on fight. They know that people will be baiting. On bigger groups, like for instance Mist, uh, Mist is a good example. I think, let me think of another one. Um, I don't remember any other one, but like these groups that run bigger, like 30, 40-ish, and they are not fight groups, like TM is a good example. TM, because they are not really a fight-oriented group. They're just casuals like us. They will try to tend to use a lot of skills at the first engage because they usually rely on having a lot of numbers. So they will try to use skills. So these groups is good to try to bait until you are comfortable that they have used enough stuff. So usually when you see like 3, 4 circles like this, the red circles on skills is usually already a good indication that you can get closer. And I just try to bait until I'm comfortable. Mist is a group that if you bait really well, like you, let me go back a little bit. Like for instance, on this distance, you start to call out for people. Okay, be ready. We'll move back. We'll move back in 3, 2, 1, and you get this close to them, like it's very close, and then show back. Your group's already ready to show back, and they will drop everything. Like it's the type of group that drops a skill because they feel threatened because you're getting close enough. Fight groups usually probably just stealth and try to push you. Instead of use skills, they'll drop a stealth on feet like a veil and push on you. So by the time you call out, you can get away and bait the stealth. So it's not skills, not wells, but usually good enough because they'll not be able to stealth soon. It's already good enough. So it depends on the group that you're fighting. But groups react in a different way, and it's more about like getting a feeling of how they react. And by the time you do this a couple times, you'll feel like when you can get closer and when you cannot. Yeah, I think that was mainly all of the stuff that I prepare. Did it make sense for you? Like, is it helpful somehow? Like, especially on the other groups, like, were you able to understand kind of what I was going for on this side, or like from the other perspective?
That was really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
But just to add on kind of what you were saying, I feel like when we're following a commander, the ones that when we're first engaging an enemy, the ones that are clear and confident in what they're going to do, even if like they give you a couple different options, but they're clear and confident what they're going to do, we tend to be better than when we get up there and someone kind of makes a last minute decision and
Yeah,
doesn't really warn people.
yeah,
Once you start clashing, I know, sometimes you got to make quick decisions, but like that first engage, I feel like being clear and confident, even like the people that aren't always with us, like it helps them understand exactly what we're going to be doing.
yeah. And that's why I think like the most helpful tip that I can give is like we talked about a lot of the types of engages, how it happens, but this is everything that you get when you are commanding. You start to get this feeling for stuff, and you start to make like a mental model of how fights play out in your head. Like you'll say, hey, if I hit, they will hit back. If I use wells, they will use well backs. Like if I go for a push, they may dodge back and push on me again. So I start to get an idea of how the other groups can react. And what I recommend is just predict what you think is most likely and react beforehand. Like decide what to do beforehand. So, okay, we'll go for a push. We'll go for a push, and I'll step on the side left, on the left side. Okay, we are hitting. Okay, they may hit on us back. I'll show back, show back in 3, 2, 1, show back. Okay, they are pushing on us. Nice. I'll try to bait with stealth, stealth. Move on the right side. We'll do a side hit. So go for a side, and then you start to move sideways because of the side that will go sideways. Okay, okay, they'll move back on us. Show back in 3, 2, 1, show back. Like regardless how they move, if you make the decision before stuff happens, your group tends to move with you because they will have time to react if the other group reacts the way you are thinking. So if they push on you and you are predicting that they were going to push on you, it's going to seem like you are kind of a genius because you decided to move back and you bait all of these skills and you'll be like, oh, nice, I'm a genius. But you just decided what you wanted to do beforehand. So this is why sometimes when playing with me, you see kind of funny engagements. Like we'll go up, stay put, Griff. We'll go up, bait, and the other group will do nothing, and we'll do on this left side, okay, baiting again, and then the other group does nothing, and it seems like we are just crazy people, just going up and forth and like doing nothing. But it's because the other group's not reacting the way I was expecting them to react. But regardless of how they react, I'll be making decisions on how I think it's gonna happen. So by middle of the fight, they may adjust. Okay, they don't fall for baits a lot, so I try to go for direct hit. I can kind of adjust what I wanted to do, but I'm already decided on what to do next. So if I decided to go on a hit, I have already decided if I will stay on them, if I'll move on the right, or if I'll move on the left. And by the time we start to move on the left or this move up on the right, for instance, with fields going on, I'll decide if I want to keep pushing. I'll decide if I want to move back, and I'll start to call out even before they react to that. So sometimes they push and we move forward, and it feels like genius. Sometimes they move back as well, and we just disengage, and we leave a lot of downs in the middle. And people will say, "Hey, just finish the downs." And I'll try to like move back and finish the downs because I know they are important. It may seem like you are crazy leaving a tray of downs, but it's because you made a decision, and the decision that you made was not what happened. But the important part is to make the decision beforehand. It's what I would say, like to keep engaged on these fights. Yeah, hopefully the situations that I provided are kind of good enough to provide some examples of what to do, like how to move and doing a clash, how to move and committing, what skills do you usually play, when to use. It's usually just kind of uh, the way that I think about the game, but it's very personal. Everyone will react the way like you go for it. Depends on a lot of stuff like personality, how you like to engage, how you see the game. Sometimes you see the game differently. It's a lot of stuff. If you slept well, if you are well fed, if you are in a good humor or not. Like there's a lot of variables, but it's very personal. But hopefully it's kind of a good direction on some situations, what you could do, what you could be looking for, and how people usually react to that. It's kind of my experience on how group plays out on those type of fights. Any final questions?
No, I like how you broke it down with the engage and the clashes and then the commit. Would you be pretty much saving breach and bubble for a commit, or are you using those ahead?
Nice. Yeah, usually when we have enough people on the squad to make a difference, like we have maybe two spell breakers, we have 3, 4 scourges, that is already enough to make a difference. I try to hold up those skills for when we are moving away instead of pushing up, because it's different from wells that you can place forward the skill. This skill you place on you, like bubble and breach. So I try to use them whenever I'm able to bait the other group and they start to follow us, or when we go for a small hit after that and stay close on melee. So for instance, we went for a bait, we push back, but the bait was not very close. They are still moving forward, and we try to hit from the other side. And then we get a hit, and then we stay on melee from the outside, and then we decide to push in, like I drop a veil, for instance, and pushing. And now that we are full on melee, I may call for those skills because they are on us, and I think we can make a good usage of those skills. But I think the best use case for them is when the other group's pushing on your space, because it's when those skills shine. Like they defend where we were, so by the time they push where we were, you are kind of outside and can put even more pressure with other skills like follow up CCs, other stuff. That's how I usually deal with them.
Okay.
Nice, good question on staying on enemy damage or moving away. On this new meta, I would say default should be to move away. It's usually better. It's hard to sustain on this new meta, like they nerfed a couple stuff. But usually I pay attention to how much pressure I'm getting. So when I'm tagging, I usually play like a little bit ahead of the group. Like whenever I go for big pushes, like I try to get first, and then people get to me. But I always try to position myself when in a place where the other group is doing some damage, but not necessarily like putting my group in the same place. So I pay attention to how much pressure I'm getting. Sometimes it's a good indicator that if you're not getting a lot of pressure, like you're not dropping halfway your life in the heat, you're not feeling like you need to use a skill to be able to sustain, I try to call out to stay on them. So, for instance, if I don't feel the need to use distortion or blocks, like if I got into them and I feel like, okay, this is enough, I'm feeling like I can sustain, I try to sustain. If I feel like I'm taking too much pressure and I need to use skills, I'll usually call for people to move out of damage. And sometimes this is very quick for you to call out because by the time you take damage, you need to react faster. And that's why I like to stay a little bit ahead of the group when doing those big clashes. So, for instance, calling for a well ahead, for instance, pushing up in 3, 2, 1, pushing up. I try to move first, so I get this kind of distance, as you saw, so I can get a feel whenever we hit and we start to take some pressure. I can get a feel of how hot it is, and if we can sustain or if we need to move out. But it's like a feeling on how much pressure I get. And this usually works because you have like full minstrels, you are fully a defensive set, you have a lot of damage reduction, bones on you. So if you're taking damage enough to go to half your life, or maybe even 70%, depending on the group, I try to avoid staying on them because I feel it's going to be too hot. Yeah, this is on enemy damage. But staying on the enemy, there is one other situation that I like to do, is when we are close enough like this. Like, can I call for a hit and we go off veil, like drop a veil and go and start to hit them here? I try to call out to keep moving and stay with them because by the time they react to the stealth, they'll try to drop stuff in the back and they'll probably waste the majority of the damage. So you'll not be necessarily on damage, but you'll be moving around the damage because they react later. So you have the opportunity to stay on them. Nice on the callouts. I think Wells is the biggest one. Like, it's the most important callout because it's the one that you fight for ground a lot. It's the one that you put a lot of pressure. So Wells for me, one big callout. Another ones that I really like is the CCs and pulls on feet because I like to stay close enough to the group. Like for instance, Griff is the other commander. I like to stay close enough that skills are going to hit from outside, but we are not fully clashed. So like this, I'd like to drop CCs, pulls on feet, for instance, that you can get a couple of them pulled to us. Like we got everyone, but they would still be there, for instance. And you get a couple on us, so they will be under pressure and will not be taking as much pressure from them. It's one example. So CCs and pulls is usually no fields, uh, some CCs from spell breakers like the Hammer 3, uh, and even a shake close enough. It's a good one for the spell breakers. I like to use my pulls. The Necro pulls from the sword is another one that I usually goes in the same set. And I think the other ones are just movement, like callouts for showback and movement overall, with some uh, like countdown of what I wanted to do. And I think these are the main stuff. Like with these three, I think I'm able to deal with a good amount of the fights.
Okay, I have a
Yeah,
question as well.
go on.
So what do you do when you don't see the enemy coming, but say they have drop it like a portal right on you, and everyone panics, or they'll come at you from using veil around a wall or something?
Yeah, if you don't know they are coming, usually I just cry. I, yeah, I try to sound confident. So what I default to is get to me like on tag, or something like this. But it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like it's just kind of a call out. Sometimes people will not even be able to get on me, and I don't necessarily mean that I wanted them to be on tag.
Mm.
It's just that you need to say something. And on tag is a safe call out. Usually, more often than not, you want people to stay with you. So I just default to on tag, and then I try to like see what is going on and react to what happened. Sometimes we already lost like a party, 5 people, maybe more with a portal. If it was a veil and you didn't see the commander, you are eating wells, so I just dodge and say, oh, me, dodge me, or something like that, and I try to figure out what to do next. But it's a situation that you can just cry about. Sometimes I try to, sometimes no, actually, all the time I will be moving around, like looking around the rain, what's going on. If I'm going to drop siege at some place, I want to know what's going on outside. I ask for people for sniff. I always try to be at least aware that that's something going on and we
Yeah.
could be on danger, than actually reacting later because it's, I would say, too late. Yeah. Oh, actually, if you wanna react to portal and you know the portal is coming, I would suggest keep your group mobile. Keep them mobile, especially if you have markers. You can just say, okay, keep moving with me, and you keep dropping markers to show them where you're going to move. Okay, back a little bit. Okay, stay with me, moving up. Try to bait the time of the portal away, so the chrono drop in the portal cannot do like a single port on you and be fine. They would need to drop somewhere. By the time they drop, you'll be able to see where it is, and I usually already call for damage. Like, well, what's on the portal? Like, it says breaches, bubble. Usually everything on the portal because they're moving through. But you need to be aware of the portal coming. Like, there is no other way. No, there is ways to detect. Like, there is no way to detect if you don't know what's going on. But more often than not, you'll see the other group way far ahead. Like, even if you count double blink, like 200, 2,400 range, it's a lot of range that they can cover with 2 blinks. You'll see the other group, like 240. For instance, let's stay at this side of the map. Can you go to the other side of the circle, Griff, please? Okay. This is essentially 2 blinks away, like 2,400 range. So if you are moving around the terrain, you are keeping aware of what's going on, you are trying to be aware of any groups, you'll see the other group way before this. So if they drop a portal or something, even with two blinks, you get some early warnings if you are paying attention to what's going on. It's it's way too hard to conceal like a group of 20, 25, 30 people, so you don't see anything before a portal come. Like, it's usually hard to do that.
Sure, but what if you see them and they just hide behind the wall and do their thing, right?
Yeah, when they hide behind a wall or something, you usually already have had time to drop a marker or at least get a sniff on what's going on. So if they move around the pillar, for instance, on that pillar there, and start to like prepare for a portal, you know something's up. Like, you know something's going on. So what I try to do is to stay mobile. Like, even if closing range, like even like getting hit, you try to get a sniff, for instance, try to get a sniff, show back, but keep with people, keep mobile, because if they drop a portal somewhere, we'll be probably like 600 away, 600 range away, or even more, depending on how mobile we are. So the group hiding is usually already an indication that something's going on, that you can be prepared beforehand. That's why you see, like I said, when these groups hide away, sometimes you'll think that I'm drunk or something because I'll be moving around a lot. Like, maybe try to get a sniff, maybe get close enough to get a sniff, but be moving a lot, and people will say, "Hey, the group is there, just go hit." But they may not even have a portal, but I'm way too careful because they did a very suspicious thing that is usually an indicator of a portal or even stealth from the early scrappers. It was usually how people would stealth blast and try to get a good stealth
So
hit on you.
so if you stealth and you drop a portal and then you double blink, um, does the other team see you coming? Basically,
Yeah, they see
but
indications.
yeah, they see you stacked, I guess, right?
Yeah, so you need
But like,
to.
do they even have time to react?
Yeah, they do. So that's why usually a portal works nice when you can do it fast. Usually double blink is too slow for that. Like you need time to use your stealth skill, and often you need to use it twice with the continuous split because it may not be enough stealth for you to actually move all the way. And it's time to change builds while tagging, so you need to do a lot of preparation. Uh, and it's very common for people commanders to be tracking the other commander. Like I put a mark on Kriv. Usually, even with like your eye, you don't even need a marker, but you take a look on what is the other commander. If it's a chrono, it's something that you already like kind of know. And when you drop a portal, if it's not totally cover, like for instance this one, you can see the portal at range. You see that there's something going on. So you need to have a very hidden portal, and if you need to hide everything, you probably already gave up a tip for the other group that something's going on. Yeah, it does. It can work. Just to be sure, to finish up, it can work, and it works often when the other group's not really prepared for a portal. But there is indications beforehand that if the other group's paying attention, is taking a look, you can be prepared for portals to happen. Okay. Any other questions? Nice. Okay. Hope it's helpful for you. Like this is the way I see the game. As I said, you probably will see the game in a different way. But regardless, I think there is good tips that can be used to make like fighting easier for you. Like especially not trying to react to people and actually being the group that decide what to do. Regardless if the decision is good or not, just try to do it. This will give you time to call out because you already know what you want to do, so be able to count down like 3, 2, 1. The decision is already set, so it's easier to provide people with times with what you want to do. And you are never the group reacting, which makes people moving close together way easier. But yeah, hopefully useful. I think we'll call
Very useful. Thanks, Bola.
the training here. Yeah. Thank you everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
Now,
See ya,
Death.
bye bye.